is pleased to bring you our feature presentation.
Have to return some videotapes. 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 Videotapes.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Strange Glow Video. My name is Justin. With me as always, my esteemed colleague, co-host extraordinaire, Alec. How you doing?
I'm doing all right.
Doing all right?
Enjoying
all right.
a sody pop here.
Yeah, what you got in the koozie there?
A Sam's Cola.
Sam's Cola.
That would be the Walmart brand or Sam's.
Yeah, Sam's Club. Yeah. Get the coupon cola. So tonight we're going to talk about Terrifier 3.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, the fucking marketing campaign for this has been like, oh, well, people are vomiting or passing out. And I'm like, that's just a marketing tactic.
Speaking of marketing.
Yeah. It's a beautiful cover.
Art the Clown Terrifier 3 issue of Fangoria there. Appreciate that. It's beautiful.
Those sunglasses are the cherry on top. You know, chef's kiss. Beautiful.
This is actually a great issue. It has stuff on The Substance, Strange Darling, 40th anniversary of Freddy.
Nice. Where'd you pick that up at? You picked that up at Barnes and Noble?
Yep, sure did. Now these are $20 an issue, which is more than the old issues go for, especially if you find them out in the wild. But it's pretty high quality. Like it's like the same quality of, I would say, like you would get like comic books that are issued together, you know?
Oh, like a trade paperback quality? Okay.
Yeah, like it's up there.
Pages thicker?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay. I could
especially the outside of it's real thick, like.
Yeah, nice card stock there.
I've only picked up 2 issues of the new Fangoria series, and it's been the Maxine one they did earlier this year and this one. So
are they doing those monthly or quarterly?
They do 4 issues a year.
Yeah, quarterly then. Okay.
So better than nothing, I guess. Pretty cool.
No, absolutely. I mean, I think print is such a. I mean, even back in '84, you know, Ghostbusters said print is dead. So,
yeah,
I think it's a unique art form. I'll tell you that.
Absolutely.
But for anyone that likes physical media and everything else, like, that's right up our alley of like, hey, this is shit we need.
Were there a lot of other people in your screening of Terrifier 3?
So I went Sunday, and yeah, it was pretty full for a small little theater, right? For a Sunday early evening. Yeah, it was pretty busy.
Yeah, mine was
kind of surprised. It was a loud audience too for the size of the audience. I was surprised. There were some like teenagers in there that I think they had to drag their mom along, you know, so there's a big group of them, and that was pretty fun. Just seeing their reactions. They're pretty loud, you know, like that's the prime audience for a good horror movie. So I was glad to see that like someone took them to see that. It's like, all right, that's good.
There was not much of like, it was a little loud in some spots here and there, but it was like not the reactions I was necessarily expecting. There were more laughs than I was expecting. So it means there were actual like fans and shit in there, you know, like, because they were laughing at some shit that should be grossing you out. So
yeah, like true horror fans in the audience. And not to say that someone's not a true horror fan, but, you know, like people that get grossed out by that, or depends on how desensitized you are to that by what's in your repertoire. What do you watch, you know? Right. So I could appreciate that. Now, I went into this movie, you know, I didn't really watch any of the trailers for this. I rewatched, you know, as we covered in earlier episodes, we rewatched Terrifier and Terrifier 2, and, you know, got to take this in for all of its glory. And
yeah, I saw the teaser trailer because it was attached to the VHS tape for Terrifier 2.
Oh, nice.
And so seeing that teaser trailer, which is not much, it's just like a little setup of like, ooh, look at this fancy house during Christmas time and nice Christmas time music playing. And look, Santa's under the tree, but then Santa turns around and it's fucking Art the Clown. And then he starts laughing maniacally, you know, doing his little miming laugh.
Yeah. So the cast in this movie, right? There are some extra cast members.
Mm-hmm. Some cameos.
Yeah, some good cameos, some good stuff. I was pretty pleased. You know, our buddy Jason Patrick's in this.
Oh yeah.
So that was pretty cool to see him play a good role. And he did a great job there. I really liked his cameo playing the dad in the flashback scenes. That worked out pretty well.
Come on.
Kind of seeing the creation of the angel warrior.
Yeah, for sure.
So this movie picked up heavily on the themes of good versus evil, right?
Come on down here. Come on.
There's some, as far as like the overall stuff, the themes are there even more so than in 2. And the fantastical stuff is elevated quite a bit in this, which I'm good with.
Yeah, I think this did a good job of adding some more lore and some more interesting things. Like Vicky was a character, but it wasn't overdone to the point where every scene with Art had Vicky tagging along, being loud and obnoxious or anything.
Yeah. And they kind of explained Vicky as actually being the demon. Spoiler alert. So I did like that. You know, there's a little bit of explanation to it because Vicky just kind of came to be in the last movie, and you're like, oh, okay, so what are we kind of doing with this? So
well,
I like
Vicky's been
that
there
kind
since
of
the first movie, but
yeah,
with the framing device and whatnot. So, and then it's there at
Yeah.
the end of the first one as a normal person, but
yeah, I just meant as like this grotesque murderer. Like before, there's like, oh, you're surviving, and here you are, and you're deformed now, and they made that a pretty interesting character as this has
Yeah.
evolved.
for
Art,
sure.
they gave some ambiguity to, like, is Art the demon himself? Like, what is Art? I don't think it really matters, but it just kind of gives you some thoughts to ponder about it and still
Yeah.
be scared of it. I did like how they followed up with the head. Like, she gave birth at the end of the last movie, and then, you know, that's you have to go pick up his head. That whole fucking sequence was hilarious to me.
Yeah, I was figuring it was going to pick right up at that.
That's what I was hoping, but you just don't know, you know, how that's going to play out. I was curious, and I was surprised, you know, for a post-credit scene or a mid-credit scene. But everyone got up and left out of there. So based on the audience, I was like, oh, there must not be anything in here because like people literally got up and walked out as soon as the lights came on.
Yeah. I did a quick Google search and it said that there wasn't anything, but there wasn't 2, so you never knew.
Yeah, well, that's why I mentioned that because 2 had that little scene, and then it was the same actor that came back and portrayed the I don't know if he's security at the hospital there or whatever, but
Right.
that was pretty cool. Seems like the kill count was pretty much upped in this quite a bit. The effects were fucking gnarly, man. There's so much like body horror in there, and like this is good. And the fact that I've seen so many horror movies, I literally was uncomfortable watching this and was like grossed out by some stuff. And that hasn't happened in a minute. So
Yeah, I agree.
like I was literally like my skin was crawling watching some of the murder scenes, and I was like, ugh, get the chills. And
Yeah,
then
that definitely happens with these for sure.
well, on the big screen, man, I think, you know, when I watch some of this stuff at home, I don't ever get bothered by it because the screen size isn't like, I don't have an asininely large TV. So usually when I'm watching something, it's not like over the top in your face, which is why I cherish the theater experience so much because it's there with the picture, the sound, like it all really amplifies everything.
Yeah.
And as much as I get annoyed by jump scares in movies, there was 2 prominent jump scares in this that got me, and I was really happy about that. So, typical stuff that, you know, for a while you'd get annoyed by it, and I'm glad they didn't fake us out. They just had a couple of good jump scares. I'm like, you know, a classic jump scare is pretty good. Kind of mix things up a little bit, balance things out. I thought that worked out pretty well.
Yeah.
The what did you think of the story of this, right? Because there's a lot more story to this than, say, the last couple of movies.
Well, I think 2 has the best story, but 3 overall is the best movie.
Yeah,
This
I
one
would
revealed
agree
more
with
and
that.
stuff. I liked the Jason Patrick stuff. I thought he was interesting. He pulled it off well.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fun dude.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a lot of room with introducing him as that character in this because,
Yeah.
he was drawing art decline and doing things like that. So they could do another movie somewhere else within this series earlier on and kind of make it interesting too. I mean, I liked him in the role and I would like to see more about him, like an artist that's dealing with all these things. I thought that was kind of a fascinating character we just got a glimpse of.
Yeah, I just think it's cool to see some people, specific people, pop up in this. Like Jason Patrick's like, okay, well, this is clearly like he's in this because of Lost Boys. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
Clint Howard is, he's a little more versatile than that. You could say he's in this because of multiple reasons. Tom Savini, obviously, same thing. He's just legendary in his own right, and seeing him in a small clip is just awesome.
Yeah, I was so pleased seeing him in there. Like, right when you look back at practical effects in the horror genre and everything he's done for the horror genre, like having him just have a cameo in there was awesome.
Yeah,
Just a
I
good
have.
little nod.
We watched Friday the 13th Part 4 last night, and
Yeah.
yeah, he did the effects for that movie.
Yeah.
And
His resume is so awesome.
it's crazy.
Like the other thing at the end of this movie on the bus, the girl's reading the Ninth Circle book, which is the first appearance of Art the Clown, the movie.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was a good little Easter egg, and there are a lot of people may not have caught that because some people haven't seen all the short horror films and things like that. So
I didn't notice it.
I noticed what she was reading. I was like, "What is this broad reading?" Because the guy driving the bus is saying he likes rom-coms, and I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
That was a good little dialogue exchange there. The costuming in this was pretty fucking heroic. And I mean that in the fact that Art with the Santa Claus suit looks so fucking good. But
Oh yeah.
peak Art in this movie is when he had the sunglasses on too. Like that was just so
It's
so
because
good.
I think that's a good way to do a reference to the last movie because he did the sunflower glasses in the last movie, and that was so iconic that there's literally like dolls and stuff with those glasses on. So
Yeah.
it's a way to kind of reference that and that kind of character vibe, but not overtly be annoying about it. I think it worked, is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree 100%. It's unsettling because it gives you the vibes of like a little kid putting on sunglasses and like just being like in their own world with like some obnoxious sunglasses that you're like, who the hell else would wear those besides a kid?
Right.
And then you've got this horrific character that's wearing them around and so I think that worked pretty well. And then the fact that Art still hasn't said anything and is still like miming everything. Like we say Art the clown, right? But really it's the pantomime. And I think it really works for this character in a fun, unique way because his expressions are so over the top. It's well acted. Like it's hard to say, lots of times you watch a horror movie and you're like, the acting's bad. To be able to convey those expressions while having that much makeup and prosthetics on, it's a pretty damn good performance for Art, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then,
I think we talked about this before, but it's like he's a mix of, Freddy Krueger and a Michael Myers type character because he does talk. He's right in the middle ground. He doesn't talk, but he is very expressive.
yes,
And even in his kills are very expressive. So, but he doesn't talk.
the other thing I really liked on this was the music and the score. So the score had a lot of those 80s synth vibe, synth wave, and stuff on that that really carried and picked up from 2. And then having their own like traditional holiday jingles with twisted lyrics is pretty fun. I got a kick out of that.
Yeah.
The rest of the music kind of fit in with the time of the year. And so, this is great because if you want to do a Terrifier marathon, you can. And then if you just want to throw this on around the holidays, it's another option, right?
That's definitely what I'll be doing. The other 2 will be Halloween movies, and this one's Christmas.
Yeah, I think that's, you got something to watch the first two during October and then watch this one sometime between Thanksgiving and Christmas. I
Yeah.
think that's a pretty awesome way to do it. In this movie, for me, I was like, it's so gory and so over the top. And I was thinking, like, as I left, I'm like, am I going to watch? What's the rewatchability on this for me? And I was like, but on the smaller TV screen at home without everything being amplified and so in your face, I was like, yeah, the rewatchability's there.
Yeah.
Like in the theater, it's unsettling, it's uncomfortable, but that's what makes a horror movie good.
I'm gonna throw the spoiler warning on so we can talk about these kills and shit.
Hell yeah. Yeah.
So, let's talk about these children at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
You didn't see the first one getting killed, but then you saw the aftermath of it, which was pretty fucking gnarly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Let's see. Obviously the one that people are gonna be talking about, I think there's two, but the main one is probably gonna be the shower scene in this one.
Mm-hmm.
Damien Leone said he was directly referencing Psycho with this.
Well, that scene had the Psycho vibes, and then obviously with that girl having the true crime horror podcast, it was very much the Halloween vibe.
Yeah.
2018 Halloween, right? So you've kind of got that thing, and it's such a modern thing, and obviously we're a show ourselves, but culturally it's so relevant in these movies now to have that type of character. And I thought that was a good additional character to get killed off. I thought that worked out pretty well. But some of those kills, man, that shower scene was intense. And like it just kept going and going and going. Yeah.
Yeah, there's I think they did a good job of like you're watching that scene and you're thinking the way they're filming things. You're like, okay, they're showing this guy's ass. They're showing the chainsaw. They're showing his ass. They're showing the chainsaw. That chainsaw is going up his ass.
Oh yeah. I mean, when his fucking body gets nailed up to the fucking house later.
That's actually not supposed to be him. I thought that's supposed to be the husband.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Who was killed off screen, I think.
Or the brother. Okay, well he had the same.
Yeah,
he had the same chainsaw cut up his ass.
Yeah, well he had it on the back. I noticed
Yeah.
that. I couldn't figure it out. I'll take another rewatch, but it's kind of who I thought it was.
Okay. So we had different thoughts there, which is fine. I mean, I just assumed it was him because he had the same cuts, but and that guy was an interesting character too, the roommate. I wish we got to see the brother and the uncle like killed off screen. They were off screen, but I wish we would have seen those. And that's not to say we may not see those some other point in time, right? Horror movies love to do that. Go back and retcon another movie or show you shit you didn't see the last time.
I will say, I feel like the brother might not be dead.
Yeah.
I feel like that character definitely deserved an on-screen death. So,
for sure. Yeah, I was disappointed. That was going to be one of my takeaways from this was it felt like his stuff was ended way too early. Like, he had a pretty good story arc going up through that, and then to that final act, you're just like, what? That's it for him?
Yeah. He was definitely more important in 2. This one, he was definitely more of a supporting character for Sienna, but
yeah.
I don't know. People said they didn't like his acting too, like he's a bad actor. I'm like, whatever. Even if he is, that's just how you should see that character, because this character is not like, clearly that's like a shy and like obviously at this point traumatized, but even in the first one, it's a shy little nerdy teenager, Have you ever been around those kind of kids?
Shy, introverted. Yeah, I thought like the actor was fine there, and then the fact that this kid hasn't like really looked drastically different either, even though it's been a few years, because
he looks older, but yeah, like it looks the same too.
Yeah. The little niece, what did you think of her?
It was interesting. You know what it was reminding me of? It was Invisible Man movie. How she's hanging out with that girl the whole movie, kind of when she moves in over there.
Yeah.
Gave me a little bit of that vibes, but I didn't love it, but it's fine. It's whatever.
Yeah, I thought the
stakes, I guess, but like,
Well, and they tried setting up quite a few things there for that, right? Obviously, spoiler alert, that she's got to go try to figure out where she's at because the portal to hell opened up or whatever the hell that was. I'm assuming it was a portal to hell based on the
Right.
looks of it all, which I like because this had some Evil Dead vibes, like kind of going into that realm of like paranormal, like demon shit. I thought that was pretty fun.
Mm-hmm.
Like open the things up a little bit so you can do that. Like Art's never really truly dead.
Like, how is her dad connected to this further? You know what I mean? They got to explore it
Yeah.
a little bit more. And I like that they're trickling in that stuff. They're not just like, here's how everything's laid out. Because it reminds me of how they did, honestly, to Nightmare on Elm Street.
Uh huh.
Because you get Nightmare on Elm Street, you get some pretty good backstory on Freddy Krueger and how he was killed and everything in there.
Yeah.
In 2, there's a tiny bit more, not much. And then in 3, they expand the lore again. There's Amanda Krueger that's introduced.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Just continues to advance and doesn't just like rely on the same story, and it's fun that way, I think. So hopefully it'll continue to do that. We'll see more of at least how Jason Patrick's character is connected, even if we don't see more of him.
Yeah, I would love, but I mean, I think there's a lot of opportunity to show that if you're wanting to make it more about the lore.
Yeah.
Obviously, he creates this angel character, and then the fact that he had his like well-known character, what do you call him, Blaster Man or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was pretty interesting.
It's fun. It's it was a good length, I'd say. It was about 20 minutes shorter than Terrifier 2, and apparently he did cut out a fair amount.
Okay, yeah, the runtime in this felt pretty good. Like that last act, the pacing and timing on this, I thought was much better than 2. 2 felt like it just ran on way too long, and I felt like there's easily 15 minutes they could have trimmed down just to make it a little more streamlined.
Yeah.
This felt pretty good. Like when it was over, I didn't feel like it was dragging out.
It very much feels like a merging of the type of moods and vibes you'd get from slashers, and I'd say it compares most to Nightmare on Elm Street and like Child's Play, because there's not as much fantastic like shit happening like in Nightmare on Elm Street, but
there's enough of it that it could easily go back to that. So, I mean, I think you can explore that more. The other thing I thought was pretty interesting on this was that, after Art's killing spree, he just went dormant. I thought that was fascinating. Like, so he just went there and sat there and is covered with cobwebs, and
that was interesting.
And
she
then,
slit her wrist.
Yeah,
in
so
the
she's
bath, like that was gnarly.
And so, yeah, that was really a grotesque scene. And so there's so many questions unanswered there. And like I said, I don't think they necessarily matter, but you're like, so was that her killing off her, like the last bit of her that was actually human and the demon taking over the body after that? I don't know, but it was fascinating to see her like revive and come out of that like fucking shit stew in there.
Right.
I thought it was going to be more of a skeleton corpse when we got in there, but they just kind of had more of a zombie look to it, which works.
Yeah.
Still terrifying, but I thought it was fun.
How about this rat kill?
The rat kill was probably the second most intense one in there, right? But to be honest with you, the rat kill thing, like, we've always heard that rats can do that, just a pop culture thing. And we would almost need to look and see like what other movies have done this or referenced it.
Well, I mean, the most obvious one to me is Too Fast, Too Furious. Yes, how do you connect Terrifier 3 and Too Fast, Too Furious? I'll tell you how. Well, in Too Fast, Too Furious, there's a scene where Paul Walker is at this gangster's like hideout and his gangster's like, hiring Paul Walker's character. So he's like, oh yeah, let me show you how the business works or whatever. He doesn't say that, but you know what I mean? How they intimidate a guy in front of the new guy.
Yeah.
They do that in movies and shit all the time. That's essentially the scene. And he puts a rat on a guy's stomach, puts a bucket on it, and it starts heating up the bucket. And while he's doing this, he's explaining, if you heat up the thing, a rat will have nowhere to go but down. It'll claw through and la da 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 da. And the rat starts biting and clawing at the guy, and then they take it off, and it doesn't actually end up like Terrifier. But hey,
Yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty fucked up. I mean, for me, what really grossed me out in that whole sequence was him hammering that fucking tube in her mouth. That was really more disgusting to me than the rats.
I mean,
That might be controversial, but to me, I was way more grossed out by that than the rats. So, and then blowtorching the rats. Now, it was pretty wild when, they slit the throat and let the rats out, and they all splatted on the ground, all bloody looking and everything.
and then he starts stomping on them.
Yeah, he kills a few of them. Yeah. Which is interesting because Art is like just disgusted by these rats, but what's her name? Victoria?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Victoria is fucking fascinated by him and loves him. So I was like, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah. Shit, what else is there to say about this movie?
I don't know. Where do you rank it in the terror? I mean, you think this is the best one they've done so far?
I do. I need. That's with one watch as well. I don't. Well, here's the thing: 2 or 3 is definitely the best one, but 3 is my favorite, and I think that's partially the Christmas setting, and I love Christmas horror. It's just there's something about it. So Art the clown walking around in the Santa outfit is insane and scary and awesome.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first time I've had fun with the kills and not just been super grossed out. I would
Yes.
say. Even when I was grossed out, I was still having fun. I was like, this is fucking vile and ridiculous. But, and I actually chuckled at Art the Clown a few times, specifically when he's listening to that true crime podcast girl talk about him. And he's like,
Oh, yeah.
he's, reacting to it. I was laughing out loud during that stuff. That was funny as hell. She was like,
Yeah,
I don't want to fuck him and shit. And he's like, oh, that was good. Usually I'm like, yeah, I get his shtick, but it's not laugh out loud funny to me, but I laughed out loud a few times. So
Yeah, I thought the comedy, I think Art the Clown's performance in this overall was the best. It was the most expressive. It was pretty interesting. And I did like how Art didn't kill them immediately there. And I was like, oh man, this is going to be kind of interesting. He just kills them in the dorm room and then he waits for them to go in the shower. I thought that was pretty wild.
yeah. And then he obviously does it with the chainsaw.
Yeah.
And we get to see Balls and Wiener getting hit by a chainsaw.
Yep.
Very briefly. Didn't overdo it or anything, but
yeah, I don't know if there's a way to say it was tastefully done, but it wasn't over the top. Not that it matters anyway, because when you think about the horror genre anyway, they're all about topless women. So who cares if you fucking have some other shit on there to terrorize people with, right?
Right.
Get fucking weird with it, right? We're here to see the horror. We're not watching everything else. I'm not here for a feel-good movie. I'm here to see fucked up stuff. And it delivers 100%.
Yeah.
I did not expect that chainsaw scene to get so wild.
I didn't know, here's the thing about these movies. They've got a reputation for having one really insane kill in each of them.
Mm-hmm.
So now I think that's just a thing going forward. You're going to be watching these movies, and I kind of had that in the back of my mind, but I wasn't like this movie was good enough that I wasn't actively thinking about it or anything, wondering which it was going to be. I was just kind of letting things unfold.
Yeah. Oh, another funny note that I caught early on in the movie, was when Art is covered in blood when they're on the subway and they're talking to the other clown. It was hilarious that they imply that he killed him to steal his costume and it's all clean.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty good. I got a kick out of that. I like the bar scene, man. The Santa Claus stuff was pretty good too, and he pisses in the guy's lap. There's just some really good sequences in this.
I pissed on that guy. That was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
That guy is Daniel Roebuck, who he's in River's Edge with Keanu Reeves and Crispin Glover. He's the guy who killed his girlfriend in that movie.
Yeah.
And then he's one of the cops in the first Final Destination as well. So he's been in some horror stuff. He's pretty cool to see him in this. And then obviously we had Clint Howard.
So Clint Howard, man, he is one of those guys that sometimes his acting is fucking atrocious, but he was pretty good in this. And I had fun with that, right? It wasn't like so cheesy over the top. It wasn't terrible. It just felt like it was a legit person at the bar hanging out,
Yeah.
which I appreciated. He got to play kind of a good role for that. The mall bombing was insane.
Oh yeah.
That was like really unsettling.
Forgot about that.
Yeah. Yeah, like as a parent, man, I was like, oh man, I was like, this is surprisingly kind of a wholesome scene. And then they're like, no, don't get your hopes up. Because the kids are getting gifts that they want and finding some really cool stuff in there. And you're like, oh, okay, that's fun. And then
Yeah.
that one kid gets that gift, and I had no idea that's what was coming. I thought it was going to be one thing just to take that kid out. Man, that was wild.
Yeah.
Which, you would say is controversial in this day and age with all the violence against children and shit going on in society. But I mean,
That's the
movies
thing.
got to be satire, right? You got to call that shit out. Like, oh, this makes you uncomfortable watching that in a movie, but you're okay with it happening in real life. There's some
Exactly.
social commentary with it. So I totally get why you would do that, which I think justifies it, right? Like if this makes you uncomfortable, why are you okay with real life? So.
Let's see here. What was the final box office numbers this weekend? Let me take a peek.
I think it beat the shit out of everything it was up against.
Latest weekend, October 11th through the 3rd. Terrifier 3, number 1 at $14.1 million. And what was its budget? Like 5 million, 3 million?
Good question. I don't know.
I think it was 3 million. Budget 2 million. So that's solid.
I mean, 15 million for a horror movie that's rated R. Pretty damn good. I mean, really, when you think about it. I mean, that's pretty impressive.
The next spot is The Wild Robot, which looked decent, but I was just like, I don't care enough to go see it. But it looked pretty like people are going to enjoy that. Beetlejuice in third, followed by Joker. Pretty ridiculous.
Which is wild that Beetlejuice is available for on-demand video streaming at home and is still beating the Joker. Yeah. Which that movie is truly tanked. So whatever. And Joaquin Phoenix and Lady Gaga are laughing all the way to the bank because they already got their money on it.
Oh man. Yeah, I didn't see it, but
yeah, I'm glad I didn't go. I mean, I was like, I might watch it when it comes out to watch at home, but it wasn't high on my list. I'm like, I didn't think they needed a sequel to that. There wasn't anything else I wanted to see that character do.
Yeah.
So deal with it as we can. Yeah, so I had a lot of fun with this, man. Like I said, I walked out of there feeling a little uneasy, which for me, that's the only time I know a horror movie is truly good, is if I'm uncomfortable walking out of there. I walked out of there feeling like a little bit of an existential crisis going on. I felt dirty after having watched that a little bit,
Uh-huh.
And to me, that's a sign that it worked. It did what it needed to do for a horror movie. Because, some horror movies are just silly and over the top, like Basket Case, right? You'd never get bad feelings from watching Basket Case. That thing's insane. But a movie like Terrifier 3, yeah, there's some good kills in that, some really unsettling shit. A little bit of commentary mixed in there. Opened up the realm for lots of things they could do with these characters in this franchise. So I was pretty happy with it.
Have you seen that? Is it 14? Let's pull this up. There's an article on Bloody Disgusting I'm reading right now.
Okay.
It's titled Terrifier 3. Christian group protests Satanic Santa in front of Kansas City movie theater. And it's going all the rounds. It's people protesting in front of one of the B&B theaters in Kansas City. Apparently, David Howard Thornton said, outside of my cousin's theater in Kansas City.
Oh,
and post
interesting.
like a picture of it and whatnot. Fucking
Yeah.
wild.
That's hilarious because, like, this is going to be controversial. So hopefully you're easily offended. But Christians in America just fucking want to feel like they're victimized over everything. You're like, you got every fucking holiday you want off. Everything's evolved around your bullshit. Your fucking beliefs are stamped on the fucking money. The Pledge of Allegiance was changed. Like, all this crap's been modified for you, and you act like you're the victim. Like, get over yourself. It's a fucking movie. And really, when you think about it, the implication of this is that there's light to combat the dark. So clearly you didn't understand this. Is it grotesque? Yeah, but it's a movie. That's what it's made up.
I just now noticed too. There's a someone who's thinks that we are dumb apparently, but our only comment so far is from Cody Leach. But not actually Cody Leach. Cody Leach is a YouTuber, a movie channel,
Okay.
and he has, I don't know what, 160, 260,000 subscribers, something like that. He's big. He's a
Okay.
big, and he is not in our chat. It's somebody with a 1 subscriber channel that just has the same picture and name, which is funny.
Okay.
But they said hi, so hi, Cody.
Well, welcome to the show.
Right.
Yeah, I would highly recommend people watch Terrifier 3. Go get yourself in a dark space. Like, this is a movie though that you're gonna feel uncomfortable watching around Christmas because, like, it's dark and depressing outside, and then watching this, you're gonna just really feel like you're in a dark place. So something you need when you want to cure the seasonal blues. This movie's not the one to do it.
Right.
But yeah, I had a good time with it. So, anything you would change about this in this movie?
I don't know. No, probably not. Not that I would. I think it's good the way it is.
That's what I was thinking. Like, like I said, with 2, I felt like there's a decent amount of editing you can do to, like, trim the fat on the movie and just streamline a little bit. But the pacing felt pretty good on this. Opening act, the middle act, and the final act all worked out pretty well. So I had a good time with it.
I agree. What would you rate this movie?
8.5 out of 10.
I'm gonna, based on my review, I gave it a 4.5 out of 5, so that would be 9 out of 10.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, 8.5 out of 10. There's some story things that I think could be further developed in this, which we may see in other movies, but the gore alone and the things that I thought didn't work well in 2 were kind of fixed in 3 for the pacing. Obviously, bigger budget, better scare, better gores, that kind of stuff. So yeah, overall, I think it really upped the ante and carried the franchise forward in a new way. So 8.5 out of 10.
Yeah, I say 9 because it has become my personal favorite out of the franchise. I could see and admit, concede to an argument that 2 is a better film, perhaps. But I think they're both up there. They're both good, and I love Christmas horror, so this one it's got that extra points for me.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, this movie is nothing without its predecessor. So, I mean, the whole entire story is based on what comes right before it, and like that kind of Halloween and Halloween 2 kind of a vibe. So that makes sense. The whole trilogy right now is pretty well tied into itself. So I think that works out pretty well.
Solid.
I do think the visions that she had in there were pretty interesting too. Like the one friend coming back being dead and like saying it's your fault. I thought that was pretty fascinating. Like the type of tormented shit someone that might be experiencing survivor's guilt would kind of go through.
Yeah,
So,
which is something that's always kind of been explored in slashers, but it is getting interesting the way they explore it these days. I don't know. That's the thing. He's got to be able to do, if you're doing a slasher like this and you want it to be reminiscent of the old stuff while also being a new enough take that it can be iconic. Yeah, it's a balancing act, so I think it does it well.
Yeah, for sure. I can get behind that for the thought process there. Yeah, so I think there's just a lot more they can do with this. So I think this franchise has a long way to go, right? I mean, I think, we're just at number 3, could easily get to 6, I think, and still have plenty of stuff to talk about because they haven't overly painted out any of the stuff about art yet.
They've said they're for sure he's going to do 4 at least, and then he's talking about, I might even do 5. So
Yeah, I know they said there were a couple months ago when they were still finishing up the edit and all that other stuff. I think they said, yeah, we're not sure yet. And then basically in September, they're like, yeah, we're in active development. So I'm like, that makes sense. Finish that up. I mean, it did great at the box office. I mean, it's just a horror movie. I've seen a ton of people talking about it, seen a lot of press about it. So I think that's exactly what you want a horror movie to do this time of year, or really any time of year. The only thing that I'm a little bummed out, right, is this is so big and over the top, but the substance to me, I really enjoyed. Some similar body horror, like drastically different storytelling styles, but just the body horror genre itself. That movie didn't seem to pick up as much buzz as I would have thought it would have. Neither did Strange Darling, and I'm just like, man, we're at such an interesting spot with distribution of films and marketing campaigns, and like how you can afford to market these, and what actually takes off. Because when you look at it, I would say there's been some really good horror this year, and it's all been very different budgets, very different marketing budgets, very different marketing campaigns. So pretty fascinating to see how it all pans out. But
yeah, it's been one of my favorite modern years of horror for sure. It's crazy. Pretty great.
yeah.
And the substance, I mean, that's got to be getting more love for sure. The substance was incredible. Did you see the trailer for Wolfman?
I did not see the trailer for that yet. Is that pretty good?
It was attached to Terrifier 3 for me, and it looked sick. Has Julia
okay.
Garner in it.
Oh shit! Okay.
Yeah.
I did not catch that. I'll have to watch that. I missed the trailers, so I do that a lot lately. So
yeah, I do it sometimes. I was there early enough that I was like, I'm gonna catch them.
yeah, they play fucking 30 minutes of them anymore almost every time you go now. So
it was
so
20
annoying.
minutes for this one. I was surprised.
Okay, yeah. So, and then I know we don't normally talk about it, but I saw a little bit of it in an article the other day about the apparently they're making a video game for A Quiet Place. And basically in the video game, it's going to use your mic to pick up the sounds you make.
There's games that do that already.
Yeah.
There's a couple. That's interesting for sure. But yeah, there's a couple out there that do that already, I think, that are horror survival type games. So
yeah, but I just thought like, oh man, we're at such a cool time with technology and storytelling that like you can actually have that come through. Like I have no crazy interest in like A Quiet Place. I enjoyed the first movie. Some of the other ones, I've kind of seen. I'm just like, yeah, okay.
I thought the third one was the best one, but I
Yeah.
didn't give enough of a fucks about the other one. So
the first one I liked well enough. Second one, I don't even recall if I saw that, or if I did, I just don't really remember it. It's not really ringing any bells, but the third one was good. But that concept of like being quiet and then having a game for that would be really cool. Because could you imagine that like playing Resident Evil back in the day? Like if they remade Resident Evil now, they could easily add something like that in there if they wanted to.
Yeah.
So just a fascinating tidbit I thought was pretty interesting. And I guess while we're on here, we got another pretty big live stream coming up on Wednesday ahead of New York Comic Con. So tune back in to check that out. So that's kind of where we're at with everything.
Yep.
But if you're here tonight, thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. And we'll be back at it here Wednesday night. And then we'll be back on the regular schedule next week. So make sure you subscribe and like and check us out all over Strange Glow Video. You can find me online, Mr. West Studios. Alec is at Ecto Violence. So we're out there in the world doing wild and crazy things.
Alrighty.
We'll see you later.
Good night, everybody.